Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where I am finally able to present to you the ROV that I've been working on. If you follow me closely, you may have noticed that I've not posted a video in the last couple days. I've been working diligently on this ROV, sometimes into the wee hours of the night, and I am super excited to finally be able to present it and showcase it and start to build on this platform for other ROVs and for other systems that I may be using. What was a huge challenge with this ROV is the size of it. If you'll see, it is a small unit, and granted this still is the same size as my largest ROV that I've previously made, but in the grand scheme of ROVs and in the grand scheme of Stormworks physics, this is a small unit. In the previous video, I have not taken the ROV out on a test run, and after putting all the microcontrollers and all the processes into it, I found that there was a ton of things that I had to change. So I did end up revising a lot of the microcontroller, a lot of the processes. The depth hold, for example, had to be totally revamped. The pitch control, the roll control, everything had to be revamped and reworked. In addition to that, the actual programming of the microcontroller for the display, I'm quite proud of, and this required some programming and some other types of work. Now, with all that finally said and done, I was able to reflect and test out this creation. Again, mentioning the size, because it is so small, the physics of Stormworks didn't really allow for a lot of play, so I had to really fine-tune these propellers, fine-tune all the systems. As you can imagine putting a large propeller on a small toy boat. It doesn't quite work. So in this case, these are propellers that are intended for boats. So when you have something this light and this small, you can get a lot of crazy type of reactions. Now, I do want to bring to your attention some amazing ROVs, starting with Mr. NJ's, of course, but then all of these ones that are developed by the Sods team. If you're not following them on Discord, make sure you do if you have any interest in underwater or deep sea exploration. But these mini subs acted as an inspiration for mine. Just looking at them, their systems, the ability to combat issues, and how stable they are. So truly, ROVs, in my opinion, ended up being possibly the most detailed, intricate, and difficult thing to make thus far for me, just because it comes down to the perfect amount of balancing in the physical. It comes also down to a ton of practical coding in their systems. If you see any of these ROVs, you know that there are a ton of systems, a ton of sensors that go into this, and possibly it won't be much unlike a spacecraft. I've not built any spacecraft yet, but if you're trying to float around in space, I presume the use of a variety of sensors and composites and controllers and things all really come and play a factor in that. The display, as well as making sure the ROV stays stable, was a big thing. And as you know, I've put a bunch of different propellers, a bunch of different systems to kind of keep it upright, to keep it as stable as possible. Previously in the game, I had a huge issue, or previously in my previous ROV creations, I had a huge issue with their stability, and they were kind of flopping all over the place. Now they do level out to sort of be straight, and that's it. After that, a PID takes over, and it now just goes straight and true. And even if you turn, the roll is automatic, and the pitch is controlled and remains automatic. Now here you have a throttle, of course your lights, but in addition to the throttle there, we have another throttle here, which is an up and down system where you use your left arrow key to go down, as you can see, or your right arrow key to go up. Now the reason it's not up and down is because our up and down arrow keys actually have a different purpose, and their purpose is to give you depth, like give you forward pitch. So that's what you use the up and down arrow keys, and left and right are your sort of systems to push it up and down. Of course, your WASD is your throttle and steering. Now, in addition to that, I do definitely have to change the seat controls that you see on the right there. But anyway, as you can see here, the idea is that the ROV is stable and it can kind of go straight. You could turn on the cam eye. You can use the cam eye to rotate around. I did set the lights to move with it, so depending on what you're trying to look at, you now can. So you can use that cam eye for those purposes. And then of course you have your robotic arm as well. This can move, and the ROV will try to counter and not sink to the bottom. It does use those little up and down propellers, but of course you could use the left and right arrow keys as well to push it. Of course not while it is in this mode, so you definitely have to play around with it, and I may change that, to be honest. I will see. Maybe I make up and down something else, but so far it doesn't seem to fall too fast. And then of course when you pick up yourself in the normal mode, then you could lift it off the seafloor. One thing I may possibly do is enable touchscreen features here, so you can actually control that here as well. Probably not for the well, the throttle would work too, but that would be something that I do in the future, as well as the ability to move this camera around. Right now the front facing camera is stationary. It's only the cam eye that can be moved with the arrow keys. So those are the various modes that I've placed. The welder does have a laser beam. That's just sort of to tell you where you're going. But other than that, everything here has stayed more or less the same, except for the fact that it now works. So it was the previous setup or previous arrangement. Now if I start to steer the ROV, you could see it kind of gets going, and it's keeping its distance off the seafloor like I wanted it to. I did push it up just a little bit there, but it does seem to be quite stable. Now again, I mentioned the inspiration from the SODS units, and are these some awesome ROVs. Specifically, I really love this one. Now this one is totally different because it is also remote control. It's also just a crazy shape, such a nice unit. And if I do make an remote controlled unit, I will definitely take inspiration from this. I do love how it's just like a manta ray, just super sleek there. But back to my own ROV, it took some iterations, and I will tell you, not in a complaining kind of way, but just in like in a life or engineering type of way, it gave me some headaches to solve. And again, that is just like in real life. Things don't quite go the way you always planned. So keep in mind that even if you're struggling with your creations, sometimes you just have to kind of keep at it. Granted, I probably should have taken a break at some point and just not continuously pressed myself to sort of get this one done. But at that same time, I really did want to get it done because I have some other projects and things in mind here for me to do. So I am quite happy with how this little thing turned out. I can't wait to give it over to the testers that are going to sort of proof test it and make sure it works all good. I know there are some bugs here and there, like if you put it full speed in reverse, you do have to be careful. It will start to spin around. So I may limit that, but again, I do always like to think that there's a good amount of user interaction and skill that come into my machines. So I don't make machines for the faint of heart. I don't make super easy to use ones. I tend to make things that have a learning curve, so once you do determine how to use them, that they do work and they do work right for you. So I hope you enjoy this video. I hope you enjoy this creation that is going to be hitting the workshop soon here. And if I may, I have been working on the catamaran, which is actually going to get a variant of this ROV here on the rear. But if I'm able to get the remote control working one, it's probably going to be a remote control one, because I'd rather put a larger ROV with batteries instead of take up a massive space on the deck with a winch, right? So I could put a winch that's this size and have a small ROV here, or I could have a much larger ROV with batteries that's probably more functional and all kinds of stuff. So now it's the balance between those things. Otherwise, this little boat is almost ready to go. So I'm excited to present this to you, and I have some other ideas, which is primarily why I just need to get this ROV done. There are a million things I can continue to add to it, including interactive display features and things. As far as the actual ROV is concerned, I'm pretty sure it's as good as I can make it, and it works quite well. Taking the ROV out on a practical test, here we are, and we have a shipwreck in front of us. So I'm just going to feather some throttle and aim down towards it. And of course, the ROV does want to lift up, so you do kind of have to keep feathering the downward. But then once you are on approach with it, you no longer have to hold down, because it's going to just stabilize itself upon approach. And this is where the cam-eye mode is really nice, because now as you're passing things, you can actually have kind of a view like this, and you can still control the throttle and even the steering through the cam-eye mode. You just can't control up and down. So even like this, you could use the arrow keys to get a nice view of the shipwreck. And I just love this. I think this is super cool, the fact you can kind of get a good feeling for what you're looking for down there, and you can even use the camera to kind of search for the treasure and stuff like that. So really nice application of that, of course. And then back to our normal mode, we can now gain some elevation. And turn around. Or you could even use the left and right. So I can press right, and we are going to get some elevation gain like that too. And it should stabilize itself enough. And now we're just right above it. So all in all, I do think that this is a neat little ROV that has a decent amount of potential for the size. Sure, it could be a little easier to use, but I also think that considering my expertise with programming, I'm quite happy with this, and I'm quite satisfied with how stable this system is. Because even like this, you're not really flying all over the place. You can definitely go about your shipwrecks and explore. You can do some minor salvage work and definitely kind of explore nooks and crannies while putting this ROV on ships and boats that may not necessarily be huge. So when we're done with the exploration, we could just hold right, and you could see that it will start to rise up to the surface. If you do notice that it starts to roll, make sure to stop it. You can see we're getting some roll here. Hopefully it counteracts it before it gets too out of hand. And then you want to slow it down before it actually breaches the surface, otherwise the propellers are going to be grabbing onto air, which isn't good for anyone. There we have it. Now it popped out over there. One of the things that I would love to see if I was better at programming would be a little map on a 1x1 screen here where you could see your position in relationship to the position of the ROV. I know there are maps that do that out there, but since I programmed all this myself, I really would like to continue with having kind of my own style of build here, so I don't want to take someone else's and even to reference it. Like, I just want to kind of have my own system, which is the OMA system. I'm quite happy with this new OMA system. So let me know in the comments what you think of this build. If you have some future suggestions for ROVs, let me know, especially if you want to help out and make this ROV even better. Maybe if you are an expert programmer with these displays, I could definitely see that there could be some appeal to spice up and jazz up this system. I am quite happy with it, granted, but there are better programmers out there, like WhiteEU, for example, who worked with me to develop that awesome seabed scanning sonar. So if people like this want to assist and spice up this system, then I will gladly allow it, and we can collaborate together. Otherwise, I will probably keep this ROV as it is, enabling many new builds, and expect to find it and a variant of it on all kinds of creations that I develop from now on, including a smaller one that's going to at least have the stability that this one has, if not the propellers up and down. So, thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more content, stay tuned for more creations. I got a lot planned, so I think you guys will all be excited with what comes. And as always, happy Stormworksing, everyone.